Welcome to the Wind Up with Will, everyone. I'm your host, Will, here with another video, and today we're going to be talking about March Madness. I know I'm wearing my Murray State College World Series shirt, but it was just the first shirt I saw hanging up in the closet today. But college baseball has started. I'd like to maybe do some videos on that. Excited for the Racers season. But today we're talking about college basketball. And I'm excited. I love March Madness. I went to the Missouri Valley tournament a couple weeks ago with my dad. Had an awesome time, even though Murray, my team, didn't make it out. And we got the 4 seed, lost to UIC, but the highest seed we've gotten so far in the Missouri Valley with our men's program. So overall, I think it was a decent season. But we're going to go over my March Madness predictions here. I know the second round is technically starting today. We've got some games going on right now with Michigan and St. Louis playing. But I wanted to go over how my bracket looked, which might be bad. And I also want to highlight the women's tournament as well and go over my bracket there as well and show you my predictions and who I think is going to win March Madness in the men's and women's tournament. So let's get it started with the men's tournament. And I'm not going to go over who's playing who. I'm just going to go with who I have winning what games. And then I'll show you what my bracket looks like. And if you don't believe me, I can show you my ESPN tournament challenge where it has my picks locked in. So you know that I didn't make this up. I'm not lying about picking upsets. I know it's a few days after. Been super busy this week, so I apologize for not having this video sooner, but I've had something going on pretty much every night. So the only chance I would have had was last night. But after a long work week, wanted to just take the day off and watch some basketball. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So in the East region, we've got Duke as the 1 seed. I have them beating the 16 seed Siena. I have the number 19 TCU beating the 8 seed Ohio State. I've got number 5 St. John's beating number 12 Northern Iowa. I've got the 4 seed Kansas beating the 13 seed Cal Baptist. I've got the 6 seed Louisville beating South Florida. On how their name appears on the bracket, it was SFLA, and I was like, wait a minute, who is that? But it's South Florida. It should just be USF. I don't know why they didn't put that. I've got the number 3 seed Michigan State beating 14 North Dakota State. I've got the 7 seed UCLA beating the 10 seed UCF and the 2 seed UConn beating the 15 seed Furman. And just want to highlight on the 5 seed St. John's and Northern Iowa. My other bracket actually picked Northern Iowa to win that game, partly because they came out of the Missouri Valley, the same conference Murray's in, but also because I got to see them play, and they looked awesome in that tournament. It looked like they were just an unstoppable force. So part of me wanted to pick them there. In my other bracket, I did pick them to win that game. They're a dangerous team, but St. John's did win last night. But after I go through all of these, I'm going to come back and give you how the games have actually gone so far. Moving on to and I should mention Duke is the number 1 overall seed as well. Moving on to the South region, we've got the 1 seed Florida. I had them advancing between the winner of Prairie View and Lehigh. Even though the game doesn't matter, I always like to pick the first 4 games. I like to pick the winner of those. So I had circled here to Lehigh to beat Prairie View, but Prairie View won the game. Florida advancing. I've got the 8 seed Clemson beating the 9 seed Iowa. Vanderbilt, the 5 seed, beating the 12 seed McNeese. I have the 13 seed Troy upsetting number 4 seed Nebraska. That couldn't be further from the truth. My other bracket, I picked Nebraska to win, though, and go all the way to the championship game. So kind of contrast between my two brackets. I have the 11 seed VCU upsetting North Carolina. North Carolina just kind of seemed inconsistent this year for me. I have the 3 seed Illinois beating the 14 seed Penn. I have St. Mary's, again, worded the name on here is worded very weird on the bracket. St. Mary's, the 7 seed beating the 10 seed Texas A&M, and the 2 seed Houston beating the 15 seed Idaho. Moving on over to the West region, I've got the 1 seed Arizona beating the 16 seed Long Island. I have the 8 seed Villanova beating the 9 seed Utah State. 5 seed Wisconsin beating the 12 seed High Point. Excuse me. I've got the 4 seed Arkansas beating the 13 seed Hawaii. I've got the 6 seed BYU beating the winner of Texas and North Carolina State. Again, it doesn't matter, but I circled Texas to win between those in the first four. So I had Texas playing BYU. I had the 3 seed Gonzaga beating the 14 seed Kennesaw State, 7 seed Miami beating 10 Missouri, 2 Purdue beating 15 Queens for the West region. And then moving on to the Midwest region, I had the 1 seed Michigan beating the winner of Howard and UMBC. I picked UMBC to win that. Of course, Howard won that game and then lost to Michigan. I picked the 9 seed St. Louis to beat the 8 seed Georgia. I picked 5 Texas Tech to beat 12 Akron. 4 Alabama. I picked them to beat 13 Hofstra. It's not showing me the seeds. That would be what seeds are those? What seed are we missing? Why did it not put the seed number there? That's 6-11. Yeah. 6 seed Tennessee. I'm sorry, the numbers weren't there on that part of the bracket. 6 seed Tennessee beating the 11 seed winner of Miami of Ohio and SMU. I circled Miami of Ohio to win that. Then I had Miami of Ohio upsetting Tennessee to advance to the round of 32. Did I accidentally say Tennessee beats Miami of Ohio? I didn't mean to say that. I picked Miami of Ohio to beat Tennessee in that matchup. Just kind of thought that their storybook season would continue a little bit. I had 3 Virginia beating 14 Wright State, 7 Kentucky beating 10 Santa Clara, which that was a thriller of a game. 2 Iowa State beating 15 Tennessee State. In the second round, between Duke TCU, I had Duke. Between St. John's and Kansas, I had St. John's. Between Louisville and Michigan State, this is in the East region, by the way. I had Louisville advancing against Michigan State. I had UConn advancing against UCLA. I guess I'll just finish out the East region from this point forward. I'll do the entire region. So then I had Duke St. John's in the Sweet 16. I had Duke winning. I had Louisville and UConn in the Sweet 16. I had UConn winning with Duke and UConn meeting in the Elite 8. Duke advancing to go to the Final Four. In the South region, between Florida and Clemson, I had Florida advancing. Between Vanderbilt and Troy, I had Vanderbilt advancing. Between VCU and Illinois, I had Illinois advancing. And between St. Mary's and Houston, I had Houston advancing. And in the Sweet 16, I had Florida beating Vanderbilt, getting revenge on them from the SEC tournament. I had Illinois beating Houston, upsetting the 2 seed, going to the Elite 8. And between Florida and Illinois in the South region final, I had Illinois advancing to go to the Final Four. Over in the West region, between Arizona and Villanova, the matchup of the Wildcats, I had Arizona advancing to the Sweet 16. Between Wisconsin and Arkansas, I had Arkansas advancing. Between BYU and Gonzaga, I had Gonzaga advancing. Between Miami and Purdue, I had Purdue advancing. In the Sweet 16, I had Arizona beating Arkansas. I had Gonzaga losing to Purdue. I had Purdue winning that. And moving on to the Elite 8, Arizona and Purdue, I had the Wildcats winning and going to the Final Four. In the Midwest region, I had Michigan beating St. Louis. I had Texas Tech advancing against Alabama. I had Virginia beating Miami of Ohio. The season comes to an end for them. And then I had Iowa State beating Kentucky. Between Michigan and Texas Tech, I had Michigan. Between Virginia and Iowa State, I had Iowa, or as my Pepal used to like to say, Iowa State. Unfortunately loses to Michigan though. Michigan beats them in the Elite 8 and advances to the Final Four. In the Final Four, I have Duke versus Illinois on one side, Arizona versus Michigan on the other. I have Duke winning against Illinois to go to the national championship game, and then between Arizona and Michigan, great Final Four matchups here. I have Michigan beating Arizona to go to the national championship game. Between Duke and Michigan, I have Duke winning the national championship. Final score as the tiebreaker for a lot of these bracket challenges. I said Duke would win 85-80. I know it usually just takes the overall score, but I like to actually put what I think the score of the game will be. I said Duke would win 85-80 in the national championship. This would be an awesome matchup. Any of these Final Four matchups, those would be great as well. So, my bracket's done moderately okay. My Final Four is still intact, but I picked some upsets correctly and did not pick some upsets correctly. So I'm just going to go through those, how the games went out. I'm just going to look at the tournament challenge bracket so I can tell you what I picked versus what actually happened. Instead of trying to look at two things at once, I can look at them at the same time. But I'll show you my bracket real quick. This is how the bracket is. So you can see I've Duke the national championship, and I can show you my ESPN challenge bracket as well. So in the round of 64, Duke did win, TCU did win, St. John's did win, Kansas won against California Baptist, Louisville won, Michigan State won, UCLA won, UConn won, Florida won. I got all those games right. Then I got this one wrong. I got it right in my other bracket, but I didn't get it right here. I picked Clemson to beat Iowa. Iowa won 67-61. Vanderbilt won. I picked that right. Troy did not upset Nebraska. Nebraska is a team that they just kind of struggled in the second half of the season, and it was like, are they going to be a team that loses in the first round, or are they a team that's capable of going to the Final Four? So I did one bracket where they lost in the first round, and another bracket where I picked them to go all the way to the national championship, and they beat Troy by nearly 30. So I got them wrong in this bracket. So you can see here I picked that wrong, but all these other games, oh, it's not going to adjust. The camera's not going to adjust to show it, but you could see that I picked that one wrong. I picked VCU to beat North Carolina. Trying to, it's not going to show very easily. But I picked VCU to beat North Carolina. VCU did win. They had the upset. Illinois beat Penn. St. Mary's did not upset A&M. I got that game wrong. Houston did beat Idaho. Arizona beat Long Island. Villanova did not win. Utah State beat them. I got that game wrong. Wisconsin, a team I picked to make it to the round of 32 in this bracket, and they were my national champion in the other bracket because they beaten a lot of ranked teams during the season, and they were the team I ended up in the final. They were upset by High Point by 1 point, and the game-winning shot was by a guy who hadn't made a 2-point shot all year, 2-point layup to win the game. He did nothing but shoot threes all year, and he made the 2-point shot that won him the game. Incredible win, and that hurts me because the one bracket I had, they were my national champion, and they're out. Arkansas did beat Hawaii. That was my other bracket, though. This bracket, I had them losing in the round of 32, so it doesn't hurt me too bad, but I didn't pick that upset right. Arkansas did beat Hawaii. I had BYU beating Texas. Texas actually had the upset and are on to the round of 32. Gonzaga beat Kennesaw State. Miami held on to beat Missouri last night in what was somewhat a close game for a majority of it. Purdue beat Queens 104-71. Michigan won against Howard 101-80. St. Louis upset Georgia pretty badly. They won that game 102-77. I picked that game correctly. We have Texas Tech, who beat Akron 91-71. Alabama beat Hofstra 90-70. Tennessee, unfortunately, beat the team I was pulling for and hoping that they would maybe go on a run. Miami of Ohio, they beat them 78-56. I got that game incorrectly. I picked Miami of Ohio to win. Virginia beats Wright State. I got that game correctly, 82-73. UK survives Santa Clara in overtime, 89-84. Some incredible shots in that game. I suggest if you haven't seen the shots, I just saw them last night watching highlights. I saw it and watched the game live. I'm not a UK fan, but everyone was talking about this, so I saw the shots. Santa Clara hit a deep three to take a 3-point lead with 2 seconds left in the game. And Kentucky inbounds, gets it to midcourt. Guy steps across midcourt, just throws it up, banks in a three to force overtime. Oway for UK hits the shot, forces overtime, and UK ends up winning in overtime. Iowa State beats Tennessee State 108-74. I picked that game correctly. So the games going on right now. There should be games going on. Oh, there's one game going on right now. Michigan is beating St. Louis by 9 with 13 minutes left to go in that game. I picked Michigan to win that game, but part of me is pulling for St. Louis. They're a mid-major. They've had a lot of success this year. They have Robbie Avila, who has a lot of cool nicknames, as Larry Nerd, Larry Blurred. They call him Cream Abdul-Jabbar, but just Cream. They have a lot of creative nicknames for Robbie Avila. I got to see him play when he was at Indiana State. So I'm pulling for them. Hope they do well, but Michigan is the better team, and I have Michigan in the national championship game. So that's the only game going on currently, but there's a lot of other games going on today. Those are my picks, and I'll show you real quick if it will let me show it. You can see what am I? I'm in the 72.3% percentile with 250 points currently. Oh, there we go. I just had to get it closer to the camera. So I've done okay, but could have been better. And you can see, actually, I should probably go back. You can see my picks here, and believe me that I'm not just saying I picked some of these upsets. You can see that I did. And other ones I picked incorrectly. So, just so you will believe me. Okay, that's our men's bracket right there. I'm excited for the rest of the term. I'm going to watch some games today. I've also got to get some more videos out, so hopefully it doesn't take too long. But now we're going to jump into my women's bracket real quick, and I'll use the tournament challenge thing, so that way we go a little faster because this video has already been somewhat long. So, in the round of 64, that's still going on today, so we don't have as many games to give you finals on, but I picked in Region 1, and I'm going to switch it. Yeah, I got my women's bracket in front of me as well for reference. I had UConn beating University of Texas San Antonio, 1 versus 16. I had 8 Iowa State beating 9 Syracuse. I had 12 Murray State Racers upsetting Maryland. Great year by the Racers to make it to the tournament, second year in a row. Rochelle Turner's a great, phenomenal coach and has done well to improve our program and get us where we are. Back-to-back NCAA appearances. I had us upsetting Maryland, but that didn't work out. I had number 13 Western Illinois upsetting number 4 North Carolina. I had 6 Notre Dame beating 11 Fairfield, 3 Ohio State beating 14 Howard. I had 7 Illinois beating 10 Colorado, 2 Vanderbilt beating 15 High Point. And that's all Region 1. Region 4, I had South Carolina beating Southern, 9 USC beating 8 Clemson, 5 Michigan State beating 12 Colorado State, 4 Oklahoma beating 13 Idaho, 6 Washington beating 11 South Dakota State, 3 TCU beating 14 San Diego. I picked 7 Georgia to beat 10 Virginia. Picked 2 Iowa to beat Fairleigh Dickinson. 15 Fairleigh Dickinson. 1, and then Region 2, 1 UCLA to beat 16 California Baptist. 8 Oklahoma State to beat 9 Princeton. 5 Ole Miss to beat 12 Gonzaga. 4 Minnesota to beat 13 Green Bay. 6 Baylor over 11 Nebraska. 3 Duke to beat 14 Charleston. 10 Villanova to upset 7 Texas Tech. 2 LSU to beat 15 Jacksonville in Region 3. I had 1 Texas to beat 16 Missouri State. I just realized I'm not done the first 4 yet, but I will go back and get these once I get through. I had 9 Virginia Tech to beat 8 Oregon, 5 Kentucky to beat 12 James Madison, 4 West Virginia to beat 13 Miami of Ohio, 6 Alabama to beat 11 Rhode Island, 3 Louisville to beat 14 Vermont. I picked 7 North Carolina State to beat 10 Tennessee, and 2 Michigan to beat 15 Holy Cross. Now, in the women's first 4 in, I forgot to mention these. I'm going to have to pull up the actual games because some of these abbreviations on the names is throwing me for a loop. So we had, in the second region, we had Nebraska versus Richmond as 11 seeds. I had Nebraska circled. I had them losing to Baylor. I had Missouri State beating Stephen F. Austin, and then losing to Texas, the number 1 seed. And I picked both those games right. Missouri State won, and Nebraska both won in the first 4. And then the other first four games was between Southern and Samford, the two 16 seeds. I picked Samford to win, but Southern won that game, and I picked Virginia to beat Arizona State. And Virginia won by 2 over Arizona State. But I had those teams losing to their first round matchup versus South Carolina and Georgia, so those games I did pick correctly. Other games that have been finals so far in the women's bracket: Michigan did beat Holy Cross. North Carolina State did beat Tennessee. Louisville is currently beating Vermont with a little under 7 minutes to go. They're winning that by 24. They're probably going to hold on to win. Virginia Tech did not beat Oregon. I picked that game wrong. Texas did beat Missouri State. LSU did beat Jacksonville. My Villanova pick did not go right. They lost by 5 to Texas Tech. Duke did beat Charleston. Baylor did beat Nebraska. Minnesota did beat Green Bay. Ole Miss did beat Gonzaga. We've got Virginia, Georgia going on right now, but it's in the first quarter. Virginia's ahead 10-9. I picked Georgia to win that. TCU did beat San Diego. Washington did beat South Dakota State. Oklahoma did beat Idaho. Michigan State barely beat Colorado State just by 3 points. We got South Carolina currently playing right now. They're ahead 33-10 over Southern. So I said that incorrectly. Southern hasn't lost yet. They're currently playing South Carolina. Ohio State I picked right over Howard. I did not pick my two big upsets yesterday correctly. I had Western Illinois beating North Carolina. North Carolina won that game by 31 points, and I picked my Murray State Racers to beat Maryland, and we lost 99-67. Oh, I forgot to mention how the round of 32 and onward will go. So we're going to do that real quick with my bracket in front of me, so I'm not blinded by how it has the other teams bracketed. So in the round of 32, I had UConn over Iowa State. I had Murray State and Western Illinois playing. I had Murray State advancing to the Sweet 16. I had Notre Dame beating Ohio State. Illinois and Vanderbilt playing. I picked Vanderbilt to win. In the Sweet 16, I unfortunately had the UConn Huskies beating my Racers. Moving on, I had Notre Dame beating Vanderbilt to go to the Elite Eight. In the Elite Eight, I had UConn beating Notre Dame to go to the Final Four. And that was Region 1. Region 4, I had South Carolina beating USC. Battle of USC in the second round. I had South Carolina advancing to the Sweet 16. I had Michigan State beating Oklahoma. South Dakota State versus TCU. I had TCU winning that one. Georgia and Iowa had Iowa winning in the Sweet 16. I had South Carolina beating Michigan State. Iowa beating TCU. And then I had Iowa, South Carolina in the Elite Eight. South Carolina winning to go back to the Final Four. And on the other side of the bracket, I had UCLA beating Oklahoma State, Ole Miss, and Minnesota playing, and Minnesota winning that game. Baylor and Duke playing. I had Duke beating Baylor. Between Villanova and LSU, I had LSU winning. Texas, I had beating Virginia Tech. Kentucky, I had losing to West Virginia. West Virginia wins that matchup of neighboring states. Alabama and Louisville facing each other. I picked Louisville to win. North Carolina State, Michigan, I picked Michigan. In the Sweet 16, I had Louisville over Michigan, Texas over West Virginia. This is Region 3, mind you. Texas versus Louisville. I had Texas winning to advance to the Final Four in Region 3. Back up to Region 2. I skipped doing all of that, sorry. I had UCLA, Minnesota. I had UCLA beating Minnesota. I had Duke beating LSU, and then UCLA beating Duke to go to the Final Four. In the Final Four, I have Duke, South Carolina, UCLA, and Texas. I had UConn beating South Carolina to go to the national championship, and I have Texas beating UCLA to go to the national championship. And I picked Texas's women to win the national championship over UConn and stop the Huskies from just sheer dominance in women's basketball. They won the SEC this year, so I picked them to win it all. And the final score, I said 92-88. That was my pick. I'll show you my bracket right here. Hope you can see everything. I'm going to try and hold it still where you can make out the names easy. But that is my bracket there. I guess I could tell you how I'm doing in the women's bracket. There's only been first round games yesterday and today, so don't have all of them. In the women's bracket, I'm in the 18.6 percentile. That doesn't seem that good, but my work bracket, I'm in 35th place in that. In the men's bracket, my work, I'm in 32nd place. Another bracket, I'm in 10th. So March Madness is always fun. I'm excited for these tournaments. I've got Texas as my national champion in women's, Duke the national champion in men's. I'm excited. Even though my Racers, we didn't win yesterday against Maryland, phenomenal season by them and Coach Rochelle Turner, all the players on that team. I'm excited for what the future is going to hold. But I'm also excited right now for March Madness and watch a lot of games today. So those are my picks for March Madness. Let me know your thoughts down below. Who do you have winning the national championship in the men's and women's brackets? And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.